and welcome back. My name is India and I happen to read lots, and welcome to my April wrap-up. I was about to say TBR, but that is wrong. Welcome to my April wrap-up. So this is going to be more information on this in my delayed TBR video, but this is going to be maybe the last time I do a wrap-up in this format. I'm switching up my wrap-ups for May, so a little bit less just sitting down and talking to you, and a little bit more exciting and a little bit more entertaining, hopefully. Could be really fucking boring for all we know. But please enjoy this wrap up. April was a bit of a tough month. There is more information about why it was a tough month in my May TBR, which comes out on Friday, so cut me some slack with that one. I've had a bit of a crazy April. So I didn't read as many books, like novel-wise, as I'd hoped. Only 3 of these books are novels, one of which I read in a day. So yeah, April was crazy. Didn't have enough time really to properly sit down and read novels. Like, my brain was just not in it. So much was going on. As I said, more of that in my May TBR video, which comes out this Friday. But let's just jump right in. This is gonna be a very quick, easy, quick fire wrap up for April. So if you're new here and you don't understand how I do my wrap-ups, the way I like to do my wrap-ups is I like to do from least rated to most rated. So starting off first with my only 3-star read, we have Snow White with the Red Hair by Sorata Akiduki. I definitely mentioned this in my TBR, my April TBR, but I don't know whether I mentioned it anywhere else on my channel. But this is obviously the 5th volume in the series. I like to normally give manga volumes anywhere, mostly 3 volumes, to see whether I like it. But with this series, I started getting bored around volume 4. At that point, I'd owned up to volume 5, so I thought, let me just give it a go. If I don't feel obsessed with volume 5, then I'm going to discontinue the series. I'm not going to finish it. And unfortunately, that is the case. It wasn't a bad volume. It just doesn't grab me as much as the many other series I've got going on. I do want to watch the anime. I think maybe I just need it in a different format. But as manga goes, I think the pacing is a little bit too slow for me. And while I do like the romance element of this series, I just don't really care enough about the characters or the story itself. Then my 3.5 star is the book that I'll be discussing this week at book group, and that is A Natural History of Dragons by Marie Brennan. This, I had very kind of middling expectations for this. I didn't think I was going to love it. I didn't think I was going to hate it. I definitely enjoyed it more than I thought. A Natural History of Dragons is a bunch of memoirs by a woman called Lady Trent, who talks at the point where she's writing her memoirs, she is the most regaled and highly decorated dragon researcher in her country, maybe even the world. And it's her memoirs about her life and how she got into dragon research. And this was the first expedition she went on at 19 years old. And yeah, I really, really enjoyed it. I thought it was entertaining. I found the ending to be incredibly emotional, which was not on my fucking bingo card. Is that even a saying? I don't know. But yeah, it was good. It was entertaining. It did the job. I have no intention of reading the rest of the series, if I'm being completely honest. I just enjoyed it for what it was. I just don't think I'm a dragons person. I think that's the thing. I tend to like dragon stories more when dragons are treated as dragons, as beasts, as animals. But yeah, it was fine. I just don't think I'm a massive dragon person. So then we're going to go into my 4-star books. So technically, volume 1 of this series, This is Spy Family by Tatsuya Endo, is actually a 5-star read, but the other 2 are 4-star reads. So I read the first 3 volumes of Spy Family. At the very beginning of the year, I was saying how I was going to read whole series and complete series in a month, and then it kind of just didn't happen. I did it. I read a whole arc of Free Run at the beginning of the year, and then I've not really sat down and properly read a good chunk of a series. So here we go. First 3 volumes. Volumes 1 and 2 are a reread for me. I read volume 1 in 2023 and then volume 2 in 2024. And it's been ages since I'd read the second volume. So I thought it was best just to do a reread before I go in and continue this series. But this is a really, really fun and exciting premise. It kind of feels slightly Cold War-esque inspired. that feels weird to say Cold War vibes. It's not what I mean. But it does feel like the setting and the politics of the world is very much inspired by the whole Russia-America Cold War. So this follows Twilight. Twilight is an undercover spy in enemy territory who has been given the job to try and find information about this specific government official who only ever attends events at his children's very, very private school. So he has to create a fake family, enlist the child into the school, and through that way come into contact with this government official, and he puts together a fake family. So we have Anya. Anya is, I think she's like 5, but is pretending that she's 7. I don't really know. She was experimented on as a child, so now she has the ability of telepathy. And then we have Yor. Yor is a government official in some like kind of low-level government job, but she's actually secretly an assassin who is using the spy that she doesn't know her husband is a spy to basically have a relationship and not get dragged in as being a suspicious citizen in her country. So yeah, so they create this fake family. They all have different reasons to be a part of this fake family, and they're all lying to each other about their abilities and who they really are. So yeah, there's many volumes so far. I think there's like 14 or 15, and you can sense the underlying kind of romantic tension between Yor and Twilight, which I absolutely love, but it's very slow burn. Very slow burn. But I love found family. I love fake dating and fake marriage. I love all those kinds of things. So yeah, it's really fun, really entertaining, really funny, and I like the spy elements. Then continuing on with my 4 stars, we have Persepolis by Marjane Satrapi. This is a graphic novel memoir. Let me just show you. Very nice art style. I always feel weird about rating people's memoirs and their life experience. So I think there's somebody that I know that doesn't do that. I might do that in the future, but for now, 4 stars. This is a graphic memoir created by Marjane, detailing her growing up in Iran during the Iranian Revolution. I knew nothing about the Iranian Revolution going into this book, so it was very eye-opening to read about what Marjane and her family and her friends went through. It is a beautifully illustrated graphic novel. I think I'm very used to the like highly detailed anime manga style of illustration, so I always find it very refreshing to read a graphic novel or a manga even that is different from kind of the normal style that I'm used to. I really like her use of like black and white and shadows and things like that. It's just really, really good. I really, really like her art style. It kind of gives very lino cut in a way. But yes, I really, really enjoyed this. It follows her growing up in Iran and also her time spent out of Iran. It's very weird, you know, when someone's pouring their heart and soul in traumatic events that they've experienced. I'm like, I really enjoyed this book, but I did think it was very good. Loads of people have been telling me for years to read it. It's like a staple memoir at work. So yes, I'm very, very glad that I did. And it's also, you know, opened my eyes and my mind to other things going on around the world, which is why we need to read outside of what makes us quote unquote comfortable and out of our normal genre, so you can learn more about different people and the world and different elements of history. So yes, I'm very glad that I spent time reading this. Then we move on with my 4.5 star. We have Lost and Lassoed by Lyla Sage. As I filmed this 2 days ago, I finished the entire series, so please do expect I'm actually going to do a big series review because I have a lot of really kind of, not complicated, but it's a journey. That series and my love of that series was a journey. I'm umming and ahhing between this book and Wild and Wrangled, the last book being my favourite book in the series. So sometimes I think about it and I go, no, Lost and Lassoed was my favourite. And then other times I'm like, no, Wild and Wrangled. But yeah, so they're fighting for top spots. But Lost and Lassoed is a cowboy romance. It's the 3rd book in the Rebel Blue Ranch series, and it follows the romance between the eldest brother of the Ryder family, Gus, and Teddy, who happens to be the best friend of Gus's sister, Emmy. And it's about their romance. He basically, his co-parent Camille, who is the main character in Wild and Wrangled, is out of Meadowlark for the summer as she's shadowing at a law firm. So he has their daughter full-time and he's struggling to balance work on the ranch and looking after his daughter and being a present, engaging parent. And Emmy convinces him to bring Teddy along to look after her while Teddy is between jobs, and they fall in love. It's very much giving. And I have to be completely honest, I see a lot of similarities between this and Heartless by Elsie Silver. I don't mind it because I actually found out I really kind of like the single dad trope. I just really like that. I don't know why. I think it works. But it is literally single dad, little sister's best friend, that kind of vibe. There is a couple of differences. There's no accidental pregnancy trope in this, thank God. And there is no, Gus's relationship with Camille is like a really good co-parent situation, which is really nice. But yeah, I really like their dynamic. I really like the blossoming of their romance. I think they're very funny. The reason I like this more than the other two is I think compared to book one, writing's way better, but also we've had 2 books of their dynamic to set up them as a couple. But we understand the fact that they don't like each other, all of their kind of back and forth banter, kind of insults at each other. So you kind of understand that they're going to be a couple. At some point, there's going to be a book about them, but you feel like you kind of know them as characters individually within their respective connections to the other couples. So by the time you get to them, they feel like fully fleshed characters, but in a way that's done subtly and done well, but their book is very much them and their book, not what I found with Tessa Bailey's Big Shot series, where it literally felt like all the heavy lifting was done in the book that's not even about them. That's a rant that I go on every time, but I had to say it again. But yeah, really good, 4.5 stars. A very unexpected, well-loved series, actually. So then we move on to my 5 stars. Obviously, Spy Family Volume 1 was a 5-star. But the next one we have is Everyone in This Bank is a Thief by Benjamin Stevenson. Now, this was in my 2024 wrap-up, so throwback to 2024, one of my very early videos. And the entire Ernest Cunningham series by Benjamin Stevenson was my favourite of that year. This is the most recent instalment. It follows Ernest. Ernest is trying to get a private detective agency up and running, and he's looking for a loan. He gets contacted by the owner of one of the oldest banks in Australia, and he goes over to pitch his idea for a loan from the bank, and then the bank gets burgled. There is a guy with a gun trying to steal from the bank. The bank gets shut down, there's hostages inside, and Ernest has to figure out what the hell is going on. And there's also a murder. Crazy. It's a lot more detailed and intricate, but I don't want to give too much away because I think it's really good not knowing certain elements of the story before you read it. I have such high expectations for Benjamin Stevenson now at this point. I love his writing style. His writing style is very meta. There's a lot of references to itself as a body of work. Ernest Cunningham is writing this book as like a memoir of his experience. So he references I was told this. I didn't realize that I knew this information until about page 50. And those kinds of references, which I think is always really fun. I think Benjamin Stevenson, I just recently found out is actually a comedian, so it makes sense why this book is so hilarious. I really, really like, we're getting more and more of Ernest's fiancée Juliet as a side character, which I really like. I really like their dynamic. I thought this was really good. I was really worried that it was probably going to get, sometimes when you read a lot of murder mysteries, you worry that the premise is going to be a bit stale, but having this be a bank heist rather than it just being a murder mystery, I think elevated the story and made it feel fresh and exciting. The plot did not disappoint. It has its twists and turns and its intricate weaving. The characters are all really interesting. Yeah, I think it's really, really good. I used to be obsessed with trying to solve murder mystery books, and now I'm just along for the ride. But there were definitely moments in this where I picked up of a couple of things and I go, oh, I know that's going to be important, or I don't think it's going to be this character because of A to Z reasons why. But yeah, I really, really enjoyed this. I just don't think there's ever going to be a book by Benjamin Stevenson that ever disappoints me. If you want a fun, fresh and exciting murder mystery series that does something very different to what everybody else is doing, just do pick up Benjamin Stevenson's work. And then finally, my favourite book of April was How to Cheat Your Own Death by Kristen Perrin. These 2 series are probably my 2 favourite modern contemporary mystery series that are going at the moment. This is the 3rd book in the Castle Knoll files, and the way that this series works is you have Annie. Annie lives in our modern day, and in the very first book, How to Solve Your Own Murder, she gets invited to meet properly for the first time a great aunt she knew not that much about, and on the day she goes to meet her great aunt, her great aunt's found murdered, and it turns out in her will that her great aunt knew she was going to be murdered and will give her entire inheritance to who solves her murder. And that's the whole focus of the first book. Annie finds some diaries of a summer in her great aunt's life that links to the mystery that is happening now. And the whole shtick is you've got Annie in the future and Frances in the past, and both of their experiences tie up together. It involves similar people, similar experiences, and it's kind of a little bit of like how the past always haunts and you can't run away from your past, and the regrets you have in your past will always come forward in the future. It's done so well. Frances and Annie feel like 2 very separate, distinct characters. I will say Frances is my favourite out of the 2. I just love Frances, but you get 60s Frances and then 2020s Annie, and it's just so well done. This one though, specifically, follows Frances as she moves to London to get a degree in psychology, and she meets a couple of people in her class who are very rich, aristocratic-esque people, and there is a murder in one of her friends, and she tries to figure out who murdered her friend. And then in Annie's timeline, Annie gets contacted by her mum. Her mum, who's normally a reclusive artist, has taken on an apprentice, and that apprentice is found murdered in the exact same way that Frances's friend was murdered in the 60s. So there is a connection here that Annie is trying to figure out. Normally the Benjamin Stevenson ones tend to come out on top, but what I truly liked in this book is I thought the mystery was really good. I liked the characters. But as the years go on, I'm more of a sucker for a romance, and the romance elements in this is really good. In the Frances timeline, Frances, at the very beginning of the first book, that she marries into the Gravesdown family because she has the Gravesdown estate and all the Gravesdown money. So you know that, but each book you're learning more and more about her relationship to Ford Gravesdown, who you know is her future husband. And it gets very kind of more romantic in their connection, and they're more honest with each other in this book, which I loved. And then you get a little bit more of this kind of interesting dynamic between Annie and local detective Rowan Crane. I just really enjoyed the romance elements more. These women's vulnerability in romance I enjoyed more. I really liked it. As per usual, Frances hits it out of the park, but I really enjoyed Annie in this book. Annie felt very strong in this book. Now I've just got to wait for the next book to come out next year. So there we go. This was all the books that I read in April. Not actually as much as I'd hoped. All will be revealed in my May TBR. I love being so vague. It's super entertaining and fun, but the May video is out on Friday, so don't worry. But yeah, I'm just looking forward to, trying to get out of this slump that I seem to have found myself in a little bit. I think I keep trying to say find the creative spark, get out of my slump and all of this, because it seems to be the theme of 2026 at the beginning is I'm reading amazing books and I'm reading them quicker, but there seems to be a slump at the back of my mind. But I don't know. But thank you so much for watching. Please like and subscribe and all that fun stuff. And you will see me very soon on Friday for my big life update, May TBR.